I know you do have some concerns regarding the future development of CAF. Why? What can we do to ensure that in a conference like this in 20 or 30 years from now, we will still be able to discuss CAF, its implementation, its benefits, not only across Europe, but worldwide? Thomas?
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Barbara. The answer is quite easy. What you ask now, implement the proposals of Gerd Buckert. Then we have for sure a good basis for the future development of CAF. But besides the content of CAF, which I also think needs further development. I mean, it's interesting. We have now CAF 2020, and we are so proud of having this new CAF done 2 years ago. And I mean, I was also part of the group developing CAF, so it's not easy for me to say, okay, we have here something. But times are so quickly changing that we now have to start to consider what to do in the near future. So besides the further development of, let's say, the model and the content of CAF, I also see some, let's say, more administrative issues of CAF. In the book, there are, let's say, 11 proposals for further developing, and I want to take some of them. The basis is, I mentioned it in the morning, we are CAF believers. Yeah? We believe as CAF, as a strong European common assessment framework for better quality in public administration. We go a step further. We also had this morning in the discussion, that we see CAF as a tool, as a model which can define and implement common standards, European common standards for effective public governance. So I see CAF as much more as this self-assessment tool for organizations and so on. We have here, based on our work in the European CAF network, we have a tool which can be used or which can be seen as a European standard, as common European standard for effective public governance. That's our basic belief. And we want it, but we see need for action. Barbara mentioned in the beginning already some of these challenges, which I also see. Yes, I mean, we talk about the European model, but we have to be honest. Not all countries are using CAF. That's an issue. And we also know that there are changes. A country is using CAF, and some years later, a person retires, and the thing is dead in the country. So there is obviously something, we have a problem with the sustainability in the countries. The European institutions are not using CAF at all. Let's say it like that. I know that there are some exemptions, but I mean, when you go to the European Commission, they run away when you come with CAF. So these are some, I mean, challenges we have to consider. What does it mean for us when we talk about the European model? There is also an issue with the external funding. We know countries who have their CAF program based on external funding. What is it? It is like the Ministry of Public Administration implements the CAF in the countries, and it does this because they have European Union fundings. And if these fundings are gone, then again, the sustainability of CAF is under question, because sometimes, the CAF programs are still, are very, let's say, quietly dying. So there is another issue of sustainability, which is an issue. And when you are part of this European network for longer, like me, then you see it. There are the countries changing. Sometimes it's not clear why they are changing. Is it just retirements of persons, or if it is a strategic decision? But that's a problem. Honestly, we have also a problem with the European Public Administration Network. It has to be said. We have no clear rules for CAF. That's not just for, I guess, for the CAF network in UPAN. It's UPAN is, it's an informal networks of the ministries of public administration. And based on that, CAF is a working group, but we don't have clear rules for that, and we really have problems on that. And we saw it with the further development of CAF to CAF 2020? Who decides? Who makes the decision? Can we discuss years for a further model, or do there have to be done decisions? So we have a problem with the rules and responsibilities in the CAF network and in the link to UPAN. For me, the main problem and challenge is that, honestly, I'm really happy that we have today 500 registrations of this conference, 570 already, so I have to mention it. But we are a gated community. Let's be serious. Huh? It's a small community of CAF users, and there are few links to academics, few links to civil society organizations, few links to maybe also the private sector. Yeah. So CAF is a very closed system, and this has to be opened up. When we look also on the techniques, we have a certification system. I mentioned it already in the morning. We have a certification system, the effective CAF user. And let's say it like that, not many organizations are using it. The IPA database shows it quite brutally, how many are using it or not using it, and I will not mention the number now, but it's not satisfying. I think it's not attractive what we have here. It's already 10 years old, and so we have to reconsider what to do. And in general, I mentioned it already, it's not prominent on the European level, on the European institutional and international organizations level. So do we have good contacts or with OECD, with European Commission? I say no. Also with the United Nations, Gerd Buckert mentioned UNDESA or the SEPA. It is not very much linked. So you have here a CAF believer like me, and I see some challenges. And these challenges should not make us, how to say, depressive or demotivated. It should give us, let's say, the spirit to go to the future. And therefore, some, in my view, quite simple proposals. Huh? First, we have to open up our network. Maybe this is one step what we do today. Most of you know we have on the paper all 2 years conferences and CAF user events and so on, but they are also, in my view, quite gated and closed because it's just CAF users. But why not having a more open exchange with universities, with also AFQM and with stakeholders? I also believe that we need a more sustainable business model for CAF. I know many coming from the public administration say, oh my God, business model. But I am really concerned about CAF programs based on external funding, and after 3, 4, 5 years have no sustainability in the countries. Yeah? Because this means CAF is dead afterwards. And so there needs to be kind of business model for how to implement CAF in different organizations. And it's so interesting to see how CAF is implemented in the different countries, in Portugal, in Slovenia, in Finland, for example, also in Germany, and how the approaches are different. And based on this broad experience which we have, we need to focus more on sustainable business models which do not rely or depend on external fundings, because having a better public administration, better public governance should not rely on external fundings from whomever. It's our own task. Yes, I want to have clear roles in the European CAF network, and on the link to the UPAN. It's a kind of unclear roles. I don't go into details with that, but I think it has to be clear. It has to be clear how the decisions are made in the European CAF network. Debureaucratization of CAF, I even cannot pronounce it. I think also when we compare different approaches of countries to CAF, we see also, in fact, different processes of implementing CAF. This is also based on the interesting administrative cultures of the countries, so we can also learn from that. But what I see what I see from different implementations, that there are those more who really are more focusing on the model, on the process of implementation of CAF. And then there are the others, which honestly, of course, I support more, who focus on the improvements and the impact of CAF afterwards. So of a simple and easy implementation of CAF, of a non-bureaucratic application of CAF, as seeing CAF also as a tool for public sector organizations to improve themselves with an easy support. Yeah. So the process of CAF implementation needs to be reorganized. I mentioned also in the morning the label effective CAF user. I mentioned it before. I simply think we should redesign it. And yeah, we know it. We know it since years. The CAF group also decided to go into that, but yeah, we simply don't do it. And it's now time, because without the certification procedure, I am not sure if CAF will survive in the next years. And when you were in the sessions today, you had some inspiring, let's say also informations of these CAF practitioners and experts focusing and expressing how important it was to get the effective CAF user label. Yeah, one more point is, yeah, we are here in COVID time, we are here using a virtual conference, and yeah, we should digitalize CAF. We also have good examples. We know from Italy, they have a CAF digital approach. We know also from other countries, but it's not a European standard. And we have to be honest. I mean, what we want is we want many organizations to implement it in order to get better in the direction of public governance, supporting public administration reform. Therefore, we have to make it easy, and therefore we need digitalization. We also need digitalization for our communication and for our knowledge management. Last but not least, because this is already has been presented now by Professor Gerd Buckert, yes, of course, we have now CAF 2020, and we all see that the time goes on. We don't have to look back, we have to look in the future. And when we look at the SDGs, when we look at the, let's say, uncertainties, or last time I heard, okay, that there are no uncertainties anymore because the uncertainties already got certain, which I don't believe it's true, but it's an interesting approach. With the uncertainties we see now, we need, of course, to look more in detail in a future CAF, connecting it more with the SDGs, with the Sustainable Development Goals. Gerd Buckert mentioned the principles of effective governance, which already had the idea to implement SDGs in the world of public governance, and this is also the direction CAF has to go. For those who are more into techniques, in the details of CAF, it means for me also starting with a further development of our excellence principles, which we have in CAF. That's very technical. And for me, these excellence principles need to be at the first step substituted with the principles of effective governance for sustainable development anyway. I don't want to use more time. I just say CAF believer, seeing that we need steps to go further. It's not easy in the group we have, in the structure we have. As Gerd Buckert said, okay, there are some countries who started somehow. You know, I am already also older. I have as Austrian, I was raised up in my public governance world with the Speyer competition also, and the importance of Speyer for our side. And all these things, looking at all these things, I'm convinced that we have to go these further steps. And let me finish with this quote from Mr. Gurria from OECD, Secretary General from OECD. And many of you will know that there was the big, large event on the recovery, post-COVID recovery. And he gave this statement, which I like very much, and is also for us a driver. going back to the normal is the last thing we want after COVID, because the normal was the normal that we had before was not good enough. And let's take this as inspiration and as a driver for the future development. Thank you, Barbara. I want to stop, and I try to stop my sharing, my screen sharing.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you very much. The audience says you nailed it with these challenges. I think we can all agree.